I invite Anant Ranganathan ji to launch the book.
Hello. Namaste. It's always a task to start a session immediately after lunch because everybody is in a siesta mood. But so we'll try to make this session interactive and stormy enough that everybody will feel like waking up. So the discussion is on a very interesting topic, understanding Workism and the threat that it holds for the future of Bharat. And it is something that concerns all of us. To discuss this topic, we have two extremely erudite speakers who are writers in their own, very successful writers. And interestingly, I have launched both their books in different cities. So she has already introduced both the speakers, but I'll add something. So Abhijit has written his first book, Unmasking the Lies That We Have Been Fed in Indian History. And what is remarkable about his book is that it's a continuous narrative, and he starts with the biggest lie that we've been fed, that is the so-called Aryan invasion theory, and goes all the way to India's freedom struggle and how we have been told that only non-violence, charkha and satyagraha got us our freedom. It's a book that's been translated in English as well and doing very well. And his latest book, this one, Davi Valvi, Termites, it's called. And it talks about the left movement in the world. And he has gone through a lot of research, and he has started with the historical context, how the left ideology came into being, how the left is inherently inimical to the concept of nationalism, and it ends with Workism and how Workism is a threat to any established society. And on my other side, we have Dr. Amit Thadani, who writes with the same clinical precision with which he does his surgeries. So his book is called The Rationalist Murders. It's a very interestingly written book. And it's a book about how the so-called four murders of rationalists, starting with Narendra Dabholkar, Gauri Lankesh, Kalburgi, and somebody else, right? Pansare. So how these four murders were randomly linked by the administration, by the people who wanted to create a narrative that right-wing nationalist forces are responsible for it. And it is a classic case of first you come to a conclusion and then work backwards and build an entire fake investigation based around it. If you read the book, you will get to know it. The book is available outside. Amit will autograph it for you. But it's a book that's a must read. So how we'll go about it is, I will give both these erudite speakers 10 minutes to make their opening statements. And after that, we'll have a discussion. I'll ask a few questions, you ask a few questions, and that's how we'll go about it. So over to you, Abhijit.
Thank you very much, Shefali. And first of all, let me compliment the organizers, Jagannathan and his team, for a wonderful arrangement and the content of this event. Again, to Shefali, because she has been planning the entire event. Coming to Workism, we generally feel, this is a word which has come up recently, and we feel that this is something which is some kind of a new fad or something like that. But it is nothing of that sort. It goes back a long way to the 1920s, we all are aware that Marx had said that the communist revolution will happen in the industrialized nations like England and Germany mainly. But it didn't happen there. It happened in Russia, which was a feudal country. And then it went on happening in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, where industrialization had not reached at all. So Marx was proved wrong completely. So the period between two world wars, First World War and Second World War, was a period of great ideological confusion for communists, because they didn't understand that how Marx could go wrong and why the West, which was primarily to be the target of revolution, stayed away from it. And they never pardoned the West for this, and they then tried to find out how to break this citadel of Western civilization. And in that churning of ideology, Antonio Gramsci, who was the president of Italian Communist Party, came up with a theory that in Western countries and democracies, why workers are not willing to join the revolution. In fact, they are very patriotic. They fought 2 wars for their countries. They loved their countries. So this was a big challenge for them. Because in communism, there is love for your country is absolutely a no-no. You have to be an internationalist. And completely opposite things were happening. So they tried to find out, and they came up with a theory that these people love their countries because the mainstream culture of these countries has been so created that all the citizens feel involved in that culture. So culture is a weapon of exploitation. That was the theory. And then they said that we will have to break this culture. And Gramsci was the one, and then there was a group of scholars from Frankfurt School. They were called, from Frankfurt University, they were called as Frankfurt School. And these people were, when Hitler came into power, he threw them out of the country. They went to Geneva for some time, and then they came to Columbia University in the United States and settled there. And then they slowly took control of all the universities in the United States. So what was the logic, or what was the strategy of these people? Antonio Gramsci called it long march through the institutions. So he said that all these institutions which make, cultural institutions which make these countries strong, like first is the institution of family, second is religion, third is education, fourth is democracy. All these institutions have to be demolished from inside. So he said that the revolution will not happen in a bloody manner. It will happen over a period of time by slowly subverting these institutions from inside. So I'll just quickly read a couple of things which... So Gramsci says, socialism will triumph by first capturing the culture via infiltration of schools, universities, churches, and the media by transforming the consciousness of society. So it is a plan, it is a long-term strategy which they have prepared. It's not happening automatically. I'll just quickly read 2 more things. The second one is by a scholar called Max Horkheimer. He says the revolution won't happen with guns. Rather, it will happen incrementally, year by year, generation by generation. Will gradually infiltrate their education institutions and their political offices, transforming them slowly into Marxist entities. So just imagine how deeply they have thought and how well they have prepared for a long-term destruction of Western civilization. And then the third one is very succinct and very dangerous. A person called Willy Munzenberg, he says, we must make the West so corrupt that it stinks. We must organize the intellectuals and use them to make Western civilization stink. So that was the kind of ideology they had, and that is the kind of preparation they made. And then slowly, steadily, but surely, they completely subverted all these institutions, primarily first starting with America, because as I said, these people had gone to Columbia University and then they took charge of all the universities there. So they became their dens. And first, destroying the family institution. So they had many strategies for that. One was extreme individualism, which was also shared by the capitalists. There are many reasons. Both had different reasons for it, but they did that. Then free sex. And for all these things, they have given ideological explanation. It's not just, they're not saying that just have sex. They are saying that it is important and it is necessary and that is how it should be. So it is ideologically, morally and ethically also, you should have free sex. It's something, that is the expertise of the West, that for everything, they will give a moral explanation. So free sex was another one. Then you had the most dangerous, another one was perverted definition of women's lib. Or, originally the movement started with very valid reasons and very justified reasons. But that is the normal practice of the left, that they jump into movements and they give it a completely different turn. So similarly, they have a completely different turn to the feminist movement in the USA also. And the last and the most dangerous trick that they played for destroying the family was transgenderism. Transgenderism is something that they say that man and woman or male and female are not biological realities. But your gender is given to you at the birth by the society. So it's a cultural construct, is something that they say. And they believe that, or at least they claim that a person knows whether the gender given to him is really something he wants or not, he or she wants or not. They come to know at the age of 3. So they started teaching all these things to the school students, primary school students. And they encourage them to find out whether whether a boy wants to be a boy or whether a girl wants to be a girl. And it has led to such a horrible situation now that if a person in the morning says that I am a man, in the evening he is allowed to say that no, now I feel I am a woman. I'm coming to that. And if I feel that I am a woman, then I must be allowed to use the women's washrooms also. I should be allowed to compete in the women's sports also. Nobody can stop me. And if you stop me, that is something which, I have a couple of minutes, that is something which is very peculiar of the West, of the left, that they control the language. And when they control the language, they attach certain meaning to some words which make it impossible. You don't want that word to be associated with you in any case, like homophobe, for example. You don't want to be called a homophobe. You don't want to be called a Islamophobe. You don't want to be called a misogynist. So by controlling the language, they have made it almost impossible to oppose these obviously horrible and completely wrong things. So that is the trick they have played. And now, like Willy Manzenberg had said, they have really brought the Western civilization to the brink of collapse, and they are making it stink. Like the next phase of this transgenderism is that if you identify yourself as a cat, everybody must respect that. So there was a girl in Australia who said that I'm a cat, and she started walking on all fours and making noises like meow and all those things. And it has to be accepted and respected. That is the stinking of Western civilization. There are a few students in Australia who said that they made a hole in their uniform so that their tails can come out, because they were identifying themselves as foxes. So, that is the kind of perversion that has been brought into the society. And all these things are done very, very seriously, and it has to be accepted and respected. And this is now one family. Similarly, they have infiltrated into universities, into schools, for example. The entire school education in the United States is completely controlled by the left. And they are so smart that they have written it down. Everything, I'm not saying anything from my hat. Everything is written down. And they have said that how we captured the school education. First, we captured the teachers who teach the teachers. Like we have B.Ed and M.Ed and all that. So they control those institutions first. And then over a period of time, as teachers trained by them went out into the schools, they created education system and students who were completely indoctrinated with the leftist ideology. So today all Americans who are educated, especially in the universities, are all carrying that mindset. And recently you might have heard that in Harvard University there was a poll that asked whether whatever Hamas did, was it justified? And 51% students said that yes, it was justified. So it is so unbelievable, but unfortunately it is true. And all this has been done with a deadly planning. I mean, we all feel that it has just happened by itself. But it has not happened by itself. Like I read out a few things to you. That in 1920s they have said that this is how we are going to infiltrate. This is how we are going to make the civilization stink. And that is what they have achieved exactly. And that is their main strength, that people simply don't believe. 100 saal kaun itna, I mean 100 years nobody can plan and work like this with so much. But they are fanatics. Please understand that normal people like you and me can't think of only one thing all the time. But fanatics can think of nothing but their whatever they want to achieve. And that is how, thinking like fanatics for 100 years, they have brought Western civilization to a brink of collapse. And now the same thing is happening to India. That is why we are all here and we are talking about this subject, that we have to wake up. America didn't wake up in time, so they are now facing this situation. We should at least wake up and I'll just say one more sentence. Their main idea is to create oppressor-oppressed paradigm in every human interaction. Every human interaction. Earlier, communism was only on economic terms, that rich and poor was the only oppressor-oppressed paradigm. Now they say that every single thing is, every relationship, every activity has to be seen from the prism of oppressor and oppressed. So parents and their children are also, parents are oppressors and children are oppressed. That is how they, seriously, I mean, that is how they really want you to look at it. And that is how they have brought society to a level of collapse, because there are people who are all the time at each other's throats. They simply can't live with each other. I mean, there are people in the USA who are saying that, no, we can't live with these people now in the same country, from both the sides. So that is the continuous conflict which they engineer. It doesn't happen automatically, it is engineered. And that brings the society to the level of collapse. Imagine in India, we already have so many fault lines. So if you create more and more fault lines, then what will happen? Because there they have race is one, sex was another. But they have created many more fault lines. They are saying that tall people are...
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, sorry.
He's absolutely right, essentially. What Workism does is basically it divides the world into two categories. Either you're a victim, and if you refuse to see yourself as a victim, then you automatically, by default, become the perpetrator or an oppressor. You don't have a choice in that. So either you see yourself as a victim, and how you see yourself as a victim is that they have these certain tropes. I mean, in the West, it's race. In India, it's caste, then gender, then language. But either ways, you either see yourself as a victim or you see yourself as an oppressor. You cannot have any third category. To expound on this subject, and we'll come back to the relevance of Workism to India and how it is affecting Indian campuses as well. I want Amit also to speak about this, and somehow, I mean, I am very keen that you talk about your book, where it is basically the oppressor has already been decided. Whether it's a truth or not, in these 4 murders, the system has already decided that it is the Hindutva person who has killed these guys. And then the entire narrative is basically, once you have slotted somebody as an oppressor, then they're just trying to prove that you are an oppressor. So I would like you to talk a little bit about that.
So, very good afternoon. And let me just reiterate what Abhijit ji said, that the aim of leftists is basically to destroy the society completely, format button daba ke usko then make it another kind of society in the model that Karl Marx and Engels wanted, which is basically no right to your own property, no right to your own family, no right to your own money, and everything the state will decide for you. It's the nanny model. And for that, breaking the society first is the first steps which have to be taken. And because of this, in our situation especially, we have plenty of fault lines, but we are a very, very diverse kind of society. So it's a difficult job. So as the infiltration by leftists has been already going on for about 50 years now, into all the educational institutions that we have. Now, it's not only the lives of these people, the leftists, ideologues, so to speak, which are used for the purpose of destruction of the society and creating this narrative of oppressor oppressed. Even their deaths are used for the same purpose very, very remorselessly and mercilessly. And this is where the question comes that how far will these people go in the end? You know, they are very focused on their goals, but are we aware as to how the narratives are being created? Now, let me come to the specific people concerned in this. What sort of people are we talking about? We are talking about a person who was himself a medical doctor, Dr. Narendra Dabholkar, who devoted his entire life to allegedly eradicating superstition from society. What sort of superstition? He will not let people throw rice during weddings because that is wastage of rice. How much rice will you waste? Handful, right? He will say that women in rural areas of Maharashtra are malnourished because they fast. How many times is a woman fasting in a year? Right? This is a person who went to court to fix the height of Ganpati idol during Ganpati festival at 6 inches. We are talking about people doing this not because of anything else, but because he is targeting our society as a whole. He does not want the way the society is to exist as it is. Right? So narratives. You see, even if you look at M.M. Kalburgi, what was the entire structure behind which he worked all his life? To divide Lingayat community from Hindu. That Lingayats are not Hindu. Entire body of his work can be summed up in one line. And for that he was heavily threatened by whom? By the Lingayats themselves, who didn't want to be divided away from Hindus. And he was actually under police protection for a very long time. And within months of his police protection being withdrawn, he was actually murdered. Now, Dr. Dabholkar was unfortunately shot dead by 2 unknown people on a bike. Within minutes, the government starts saying, or government of the day starts saying that Godsewadi walon ne mara hai. How do you know? Within minutes, your chief minister is issuing a statement the next day that we are against these forces. He has been killed for his ideas. How do you know? Within minutes. Even the police took half an hour to reach on the scene and you already know who has done the crime. No, that's not how it worked. What happens is, you are working backwards. You've already now identified that these are the people who have done the murders. Now we will try to find out who among them has done. You're not going to look anywhere else because that's none of your business. You don't want to, right? And the same thing has happened with all the 4 murders. And because of this, I don't want anybody to get killed, first of all, for their thoughts. We should defeat them at ideological level. But what happens in these cases is, the more you try to link up these murders together with each other, and the narrative has been so strong because you'll know, Dar Ka Mahal, we all saw what happened during the Dar Ka Mahal narrative where film actors and actresses started saying statements like this. We know what happened with the Kalburgi murder where award wapsi happened with so many people giving up their Padma awards and Sahitya Academy awards and everything. So these are very hot political issues. They weren't just murders, they were utilized for political purposes. And unless a narrative is created, the political purpose is not served. Which is why these murders were linked together. At the same time when these 4 murders were connected, now let me just reiterate, Dabholkar was murdered in 2013. Comrade Pansare, who was a practicing Communist Party politician and no rationalist, was brought into this because he was Dabholkar's friend, right? He was murdered somewhere in the beginning of 2015. He was an active politician, mind you, and he had a lot of things going on at that time. In the latter half of the same year, 2015, Kalburgi was murdered in Bangalore. Not even in the same state, not in the same city. One was in Pune, one was in Kolhapur, one was in Bangalore. And then in 2017, Gauri Lankesh was shot dead. Shortly after she tweeted something like, comrades, we should not fight amongst each other. She was shot dead. And who was blamed? She has been killed for her thoughts. 18 activists, all Hindus, caught, put in the lockup, tortured till they gave some kind of statement. In the Dabolkar case, let me reiterate what happened. On the day he was arrested, 2 other people were arrested in an unrelated case. Murder weapons, the weapons were recovered from them and they were tested in the forensic lab, and Mumbai lab, Kalina lab, gave a report that these look like the weapons from which the bullets have been fired. These 2 people were history sheeters. They were known arms dealers. And they gave statements to the media that Rakesh Maria, who was the ATS chief of Mumbai at that time, has offered us 25 lakhs to take the blame on ourselves. Now, these 2 people were arrested for the murder because their weapons had a match. They were never charge sheeted. Why? Because they didn't belong to any Hindu organization. So in the next year, 2014-15, the case was handed over to the CBI because there were no further breakthroughs. Pune police had prepared 2 sketches of 2 people. The CBI prepares another set of sketches of 2 different people and says, we have identified the murderers. Now you tell me, does the face of the murderer change when the investigating agency changes? Because the first set of photographs does not match with the second set of photographs, and allegedly the same witnesses have given evidence, and these photographs are there in my book, you can see them. I have taken the photographs directly from the FIRs and from the charge sheets. They don't match. Not only this, in 2015, you name 2 people as the murderers of Dabolkar. You say these 2 people have committed the murders. You charge sheet them. And you don't have them. Because those people are already missing since 2009. Right? In 2017, the CBI files a second charge sheet. Now, charge sheet means what? The investigation is complete. We have enough material to go on trial. Okay. 2017, the CBI files a second charge sheet, naming 2 different people. Not the same people. Now, what is your investigation doing here? You are saying that 2 people have committed murder. You know which 2 people they are. You have enough material to go for a trial. And then under the guise of keeping some evidence collection balance, you file a second charge sheet in which you have actually changed the name of the murderers also. You change their faces also. And your witnesses identify these again as the same persons. I mean, just imagine the kind, and when you read the papers, you will say, ha, Akolkar Pawar, ye dono ka naam aaya, ye log ne 3 murder kiya. Where are they? They haven't been seen for the last 14 years. They've been missing. And the reason why they're missing is also there in my book. If you'll see that, it is there. Now, what I'm trying to say is that this is a narrative. Nobody questions as to how murderers can change, as to how murder weapons can change, as to how a murder weapon which has allegedly been dismantled and thrown into the sea and then divers 6 years earlier is retrieved intact by diving. So these are sort of questions which we must ask, you know. Because unless you ask these questions, these narratives do not get deconstructed. The moment you start asking questions, acha, that person said he broke the weapon and threw it inside the water. How did you remove an intact weapon? Because he was lying. You all put the words in his mouth. He was tortured into giving that statement. And he has gone on record saying that I'm tortured into giving this statement. Now, Workism per se, which is an extreme form of, you can say, cultural Marxism, where you are hell-bent on breaking every single relationship that a person may have and create a class of oppressed people, each one of whom is calling the other as an oppressor. Now imagine the kind of infighting which will happen in a society if this happens. There are concepts like intersectionality, meaning what happens is, the more number of boxes you tick on the oppressed scale, the more oppressed you are, right? So if you are in the American context, if you are black, if you are disabled, if you are a gay, then you click a lot of boxes and you come into the most oppressed category, irrespective whether you have committed a murder or not. If you committed a murder, see, he was so oppressed, that's why he committed a murder. So this is where we are headed, where everything is linked to an identity. Whether you like that identity or not, it's linked to you, it's stuck on you.
Now, I want to ask Abhijit, what are the precise threats to Bharat as far as Workism is concerned? And I'm talking specifically in the Indian context.
They are extending this idea of oppressor-oppressed relationship to India in a very big way. So what is race in the United States becomes caste in India. Whites become upper caste in India. Blacks become Dalits and other Adivasis in India. And their strategy is that these two can never be reconciled. So this oppressor-oppressed idea is not something that the oppression should end. They don't want to flatten this structure, but they want to flip it. So today's oppressor should become tomorrow's oppressed, and today's oppressed should become tomorrow's oppressors. That is again, they have something that they have written down. So the conflict will always go on, in fact, go on increasing, and the country will always be burning. That is their idea. And in India already there are so many fault lines that if you add more and more, and if you want to inflame them more and more, it's going to be very, very dangerous. Another problem is that we are very happy in copying whatever happens in the West. So we will tend to copy what is happening there. That is why all these things are happening in Delhi schools and all that. They call men dressed as women, who consider themselves as women, they are called as the drag queens. They are wearing small short skirts and false breasts and all that. And they are called to tell stories to the KG children. So it's like a salesmanship of transgenderism. Actually, that is what is happening. And once that happens, it is going to be very, very difficult. If you see the figures of how many people are declaring themselves as transgenders, they're totally shocking. There are something like 4,000% in some of the cases. And there are many reasons why it happens. One is, it's only because of privilege. And if you fail or if you don't get good money and good position and all that, it's only because of the disadvantage of being an oppressed from the oppressed group. So this is an ideology which is going to come to us, it is coming to us. And we are, in fact, only beginning to take our position under the sun. And at this time, if all these terrible things come into India, and our children are also taught on these lines, it is going to be very, very difficult. And I'll just end by telling you one more thing, that Frankfurt School created a theory called critical theory. And that critical theory has got three components. It's a confluence of three ideologies. One is Marxism, which talks about oppressor-oppressed, so they have picked it up from there. Second is postmodernism, which says that there is nothing like objective reality, or there is nothing like objective truth. It's all subjective, so you can interpret it whatever way you want. That is why if you try to argue with a leftist, you can never win, because he doesn't believe in objective reality. He doesn't believe in facts. They simply don't believe that there is something like truth, facts, right or wrong. These are all things which are meaningless according to them. And that is why it's a very, very difficult battle. And if half of our population from studying in schools and colleges is indoctrinated with these thoughts, I shudder to think how we are going to address those problems.
This reminds me, there is a politician in Maharashtra who recently went on record saying that Shurpanakha has the first right on the city of Nasik, and the city of Nasik should be renamed after Shurpanakha. So this logic was put to me. Continue that line of argument to its logical conclusion. No, anyway, this is besides the point. My question to Amit is, he has said very beautifully about what is the threat, especially on campuses. So what is it that we can do? And you are a parent of two young kids, kids who are in that age where they can be influenced by Workism, so am I for that matter. So how do we stop our children from being victims to this oppression Olympics?
Yeah, so as Shefali rightly said, in fact, one of the days I saw my daughter. My daughter just finished her MBBS and she's no longer small, unfortunately. So when her course was going on, one of the days I saw her listening to a webinar online, and I just asked her, "What is this going on?" He's saying it's on sex and gender fluidity. And I said, "What?" I said, "Okay, let her finish hearing this." And then once she was done with the thing, I said, "What did you learn?" She's saying, "No, but gender is a social construct." I said, "You're an MBBS student. It's a biological construct. How is it a social construct?" And then, for a while it went back and forth, and then suddenly it hit her. Yeah, right, it is biological. It can't be social, right? You're not just a female because someone told you, right? You have a reality, a biological reality which can't be changed. So unless we are observing what our children are learning in there, you will not even come to know what is going on. So the basic thing is that be vigilant. Talk to your kids, always maintain a very, very clean line of communication with your kids so that you always know and they trust you enough to confide in you whatever is going on. No need to get judgmental. Sometimes you get angry, but no need to get judgmental on the things or no need to, get aggressive with that. Otherwise the communication line is shut. Then you will really not come to know what is going on. So maintain very, very good communication lines and keep a close watch on what they are learning in their classes. That is the basic piece of advice. And first of all, we ourselves should know these things. If we only don't know, how we can expect them to know anything. So these are the two things I would like to say in this.
There is a word that's being branded around in India quite a bit these days. It's called Brahminical patriarchy. So I actually saw a photograph where there is a woman in a full head-to-toe burqa, like fully covered, and she's holding a banner saying, "Stop Brahminical patriarchy." Now the whole visual didn't make sense to me. I mean, what does Brahminical patriarchy have to do with this? And the irony of it is, really tragic. But the point is, how is gender being weaponized in this debate? And little background in this, because you have dealt with the subject at length in this. And what can we do to counter this?
In the Western world, they had very few fault lines. Like one was race. We have so many. Like we have religion, we have caste, we have language. There is no dearth of fault lines in our country. But in the West, they had to invent fault lines. So they invented gender as one fault line. And I was telling you about the three ideologies that combined to form critical theory. One was communism, one was postmodernism, and third was pansexuality or pansexualism. And that says that any kind of normal sexuality is oppressive. Honestly, I mean, it really it sounds sounds unbelievable, but they really very seriously argue that if you have a normal sexual leaning, then you are an oppressor. And if you are having transgender or some other kind of sexuality, then you are oppressed. And I was telling you about how the percentage of people who declare themselves as transgender increases. In the schools, they teach the students that white people or Brahmins, for example, are always oppressors. And once you are in that class, you can never get out of it. So you may be very, very progressive in your mind, you may be very, very modern in your thinking, but still, if you are a Brahmin, you will always remain an oppressor. So just imagine a 5-year-old kid or a 6-year-old kid. If he is told continuously that you have been oppressors and you have oppressed all these other people, they feel very depressed. And then they yearn for some kind of a oppressed identity for themselves also. Seriously, that is what happens. I mean, it really sounds very funny, but it really happens. Because you imagine a 6-year-old kid. So he or she said, I also want some oppressed identity. And then the easiest oppressed identity to gain is declare that I am a transgender. Then suddenly you become a hero. Then your friends start looking at you with, oh wow, I mean, because they have made it cool, that is their strength, that they have made these things cool. Becoming a transgender is a cool thing. Becoming a mentally fragile person is a cool thing. So you declare that, I'm having mental issues. Then your friends will say, oh, what a brave person she is. So making people fragile, obesity is cool, exactly. So these new identities they are discovering, that if you are a fit person, you are an oppressor. If you are obese, you are an oppressed. If you are short, you are an oppressed person. If you are a tall and handsome person, you are an oppressor. I'm not joking. This is how it is. They really say these things very seriously, and they are taken very seriously. So these are the things which are actually creating all these issues. And what was So gender, as I said, that they had very few fault lines, so they created gender as one fault line, and they used it very, very powerfully. And again, they were backed by the ideology of pansexualism, so they built upon it and took gender as one reason why, because of on which the society can be divided. Because ultimately, their aim is to divide the society and keep the friction going and keep the temperature rising and finally bring it down. So gender was one of the issues that they created, and they have made it now so watertight that in the United States, if your children are told, school children, that if you want to get a sex change operation done, you don't need your parents' permissions. You don't need a parent's permission. And if parents object, then they can be sued, prosecuted.
Yeah.
Prosecuted.
No, yeah, I just want to add.
That is how they have weaponized gender, and it has gone to such a serious extent that in India we have to stop it right here. If you don't take those steps right now, we are in for a great shock, because today we are laughing because we think that it's all very laughable, but believe me, it is not laughable. It will make you cry. So we have to stop it right here.
So in medical terms, since it's kind of my subject, there is a very, very small group of male children who identify as female. Since their childhood, they have this feeling that no, I have behavior patterns, everything, and it's a very, very small group running into maybe a few in a million. Okay. And this has been traditionally the group which is eventually who are offered sex change operations. Now, in what is happening in the US is something which is totally the opposite. It's all teenage girls. Okay, why? Because they are at an age when they are vulnerable mentally, and these people are exploiting that to the maximum. And this is where the distortion has crept in, that as Abhijit rightly said, children whom we will never, their consent isn't valid in court, right? We need an adult's consent, are being offered changes which are permanently damaging them. If they say puberty blockers cannot be reversed. Once puberty is blocked, that child is never going to hit puberty again. It's gone. The child is rendered infertile for life, irrespective of what they do with their genitals later. If they decide it was a mistake, too bad. It's your bad luck. Imagine giving that kind of permanent treatment options in the hands of kids, and the parents aren't supposed to question them. The counselors in the school aren't supposed to question them. If the child comes and says, I feel like a female, the counselor is just supposed to say, yeah, then you must be one, let's get a sex change done. And if the counselor doesn't say that, the counselor gets sacked. Now, these are very serious things. Medically, I will say it's a criminal offense. It's a criminal offense to do any procedure in these children. It's a criminal offense to give them any kind of medicines like this. But it has happened, and so-called progressive countries have done it. We should simply not go down that path at any cost.
In fact, the ultimate frontier of Workism is basically to normalize pedophilia and say that it's a normal urge among certain individuals to get sexually attracted to children. I cannot think of anything that is more evil or more sinister than this. But that is also probably going to happen first in the Western countries and then regrettably in India, because we always have idiots in our country who want to follow everything that's happening abroad. Abhijit, I want to talk to you about the second big area which is being weaponized by creating false narrative, that is history, and how history has been used to further the woke agenda.
History is something which is very, very powerfully weaponized. In the US, they have said that America is all about racism. There is no other identity to America but racism. Now, racism has been a problem in America. Nobody can deny that. But you can't say that that is the only identity that the US has. So if you look at slavery, for example, more slaves were taken to Arabian countries than were taken to the United States. But nobody talks about slavery in Arabian countries, right? But the stamp of slavery and racism has been fixed so strongly on the United States that in history, they say that they have created something which is called as 1619 project. So normally we say that America was formed in 1776 when they got their independence from the British. But wokes have created something which is 1619 project, because in the year 1619, a batch of African slaves landed in the United States for the first time. So they say that 1619 is the year when the US was formed. Because racism is the only identity of US, and it started in 1619. So 1619 should be the year that should be taken as the year when the United States were formed. Same thing is now being done with India. India's only identity is casteism, exploitation, patriarchy. These are the words which are associated with India. And that is why dismantling global Hindutva is such a big program that they took in the United States, where all big universities were associated. Because they are associating India with casteism, patriarchy, exploitation, and other things. So they are giving you an identity which you simply can't shrug off, because it is given with so much conviction. There is a lady who has written a book, I forget her name. She has written a book which says that casteism in India is the origin of all exploitation in the world. Seriously. And it's a bestseller. And Oprah Winfrey has promoted that book very, very strongly. And it's a bestseller book in the United States. So they are associating, they are using history. I mean, we have been always targeted like that. The British also weaponized history and created RN invasion theory to demolish our self-confidence and self-respect. We have lived through that. But again, the same game is being played with us. When British started that, Oxford University played the important role of giving it a research and ideology foundation. And now in this game of dominating India, Harvard University is playing a very big role of giving them the ideological shield from which they are launching a great attack on India by completely distorting our history. They are saying that India is nothing but patriarchy. India is nothing but exploitation. India is nothing but casteism and untouchability. So it's a very, very serious subject. And because they create a very, very strong ideological aura around whatever they say, it becomes very difficult. Another thing is, they draw a line of ethics. And they say that if you are on the wrong side of that, wrong meaning they decide what is right and wrong. And if you are on the wrong side of that line, then you can never be right. So, and again, as I said, that there is nothing like objective reality. So you can't argue. Once they declare that you are xenophobic, once they declare that you are Islamophobic, once they declare that you are patriarchal, you have no chance. So that is the foolproof kind of strategy that they have prepared. And earlier we realize and start fighting it, it is better.
Thank you so much. That was a very, very interesting debate. Now I open the floor for questions. Because of lack of time, I'll be able to take 2 or 3 questions, but just ask questions. Please don't make observations.
That was an absolutely fascinating discussion. The three of you is absolutely brilliant. Couple of very quick questions to Abhijit ji. When you say, and I completely identified with you when you said that you cannot argue with commies and leftists because I am from JNU, is absolutely self-defeating. And then at the same time, you also say India has to make sure that we defeat them. Isn't that a contradiction? Because if you cannot argue with people, they will not listen to reason and rationale. How the hell do you defeat them? The only solution, and I'm just putting it for, is to use the Hindi proverb, loha hi lohe ko kaatta hai. If left demands complete submission and any deviation is completely prohibited, it works for the global community, leftist community, then dare I say there is a religion that also demands complete submission. It also works for only the global religious people in the fold. So why isn't that people of that religious fold fighting the left? It is Loha versus Loha. Where do we come in? We can just step aside and watch the fun. That's number one. And to Dr. Saab, while I do agree with your thesis very quickly about the rationalist murder, because that was also part of that, you can say it that I'm being a devil's advocate. But for wrong people or people who did not commit the crime to be tortured and to be wrongly accused of this, all the intelligence agencies are with the present BJP government for the last 9 years. So you can no longer accuse the Congress or the NCP or erstwhile governments of committing this, absolute monstrosity. So what do you have to say to, the present government not disentangling the mess that these 4 murders have got themselves into? And is that, doesn't the blame also rest on that? And finally, I agree with your daughter, not you, because I believe while gender may be fluid, sex is not. In fact, that was one of the debates where the Chief Justice also got it wrong when he said there is no such thing as biological male or female. He was absolutely wrong. So people can identify themselves as cat, mouse, rat, whatever they wish to, but biologically they are either male or female. Thank you.
So this is very interesting actually as to why the authorities stayed how they were. And all this stems from the judge who actually asked for the case and took it, Justice Dharmadikari. And this particular justice ideally should not have even touched this case because his father was a very close associate of Dabholkar. He was the senior Justice Dharmadikari. So having a personal interest, normally you would have to recuse yourself from the case. But in this case, he has taken the matter out of turn and kept it with him. And he has given orders not to transfer any officers connected with the case. And that is how that position stayed till the time the judge retired. And the court continued to monitor this investigation with the same parameters right up to 2023 January when the trial had already begun. So normally a court-monitored investigation should end when the charge sheet is filed, which should have been ideally, one charge sheet was already filed in 2015, so it should have technically ended at that time. It didn't. It should have ended in 2017 when the second charge sheet was filed. It didn't. And the Dabholkar family themselves kept fighting in court, saying that we want to continue the court monitoring of the investigation. And even after the trial had begun, they kept pleading with the court the same thing in the Supreme Court. And the reason for this is because of application of pressure, nothing else. It was just a pressure tactic. And because keep doing this, they will keep making allegations that the investigation is not, and in fact they did throughout, that these investigations have not been done properly and the real culprits have not been caught. And till date, the family maintains the real culprits have not been caught, by the way. So, this is how it has gone. Now, as to why the present government didn't do anything about it, I don't think they will. I don't have any such expectations from them that they are going to change the officers concerned or touch the investigation in any manner. and they have their own reasons not to. Also, they still haven't done anything about even the Malegaon cases. And I will go one step further to say that this is the last bit of the Hindu terror narrative which was remaining, because there were actually efforts to make linkage between the Malegaon accused and the accused in these 4 cases, which eventually they had to accept that there's simply no linkage involved in this. So that is wahan pe. Now, yes, gender fluidity is a nonsense. You can identify yourself as anything you want, cat, dog, elephant, whatever. But yes, but that doesn't change your reality as to what you are. And, you may undergo a surgery to get a sex change operation done. It still doesn't change your biologics. So that doesn't change. Now, if you have an issue, yeah, you can seek counseling, you can seek professional help. You can do what you want to yourself, but as a governmental policy, it is not acceptable for you to allow minors to take such decisions. That is absolutely out. If some adult of, the Piramal who did a sex change operation after he was 30, I'm fine with that. It's your choice. 30-year-old is good enough to understand, but to allow children and preteens and, teenagers to do this, no, that can't be done.
One small subset question. If you are saying that adults can get that thing, in a sense, mutilate themselves, but children should not, then why do we allow male circumcision of children?
We do it only for medical reasons. So actually, that is one of my bread and butter surgeries. So I would request you not to kick my stomach.
Anand, do you think any one of us is Asaduddin Owaisi or something?
So coming to your first question, certainly Hinduism is in fact the most tolerant and inclusive religion. So for transgenders also we have something called as kinnar. So we accept them as a part of the society. And whereas in Islam, transgenderism means death. So still, the reason behind that is they have identified Islam as oppressed. So they want to create more and more oppressed classes. For them, Islam is an oppressed class. And oppressed can never be wrong. Oppressors can never be right. Oppressed can never be wrong. So that's why Hamas gets justified. Because they are oppressed. And oppressed can never be wrong. So that is the issue. Another thing is, there are 3 major streams who want totalitarian control over the world. One is extremely rich families and banks. Second is left. And third is Islam. And all of them think that they are using each other. So left thinks that they are using Islam. And that's why they never go against them. Because their idea is to destroy the world. Anarchy and destruction is what they want. And no better partner than Islam to achieve anarchy and destruction. So that is why that yuti is there, Islam and left. But in Iran, what happened, we all know that initially the movement against Shah was started by the left. But they were not going anywhere. So they thought that we'll use Khomeini because he was popular among the rural youth. So they thought that we'll use him. But once the movement was successful, the left were the first ones who were shot. And it became an Islamic republic. So it's anybody's guess what is going to happen ultimately.
I'll have to wrap up now because after this we have a very, very important and engrossing session by Vishnu Shankar Jainji. Both Abhijit and Amit will be available. There'll be a tea break. Please feel free to meet them. Please buy the book, take their autographs and ask them whatever questions that you might have. Unfortunately, since we are already 10 minutes above the stipulated time limit, I'll have to wrap up here. Thank you for being such a lovely audience.
I call upon Mrs. Sapna Ajay Bharatan, President, Regional CRPF Families Welfare Association, Coimbatore, and wife of IGP CRPF, Coimbatore, to felicitate Srimati Shefali Vaidya. I also call upon Sriram ji to felicitate Amit Tadani ji. Can we also have Paramashivan ji to felicitate Abhijit Joag ji? Next up on stage, I would like to call upon a lawyer of the Supreme Court of India and a speaker, Sri Vishnu Shankar Jain ji, on his special address, Reclaiming Brick by Brick.
धर्म संस्थापना के देवता भगवान श्री कृष्ण के चरणों में मेरा नमन। परात्पर गुरु डॉक्टर जयंत बालाजी आठवाले के चरणों में मेरा नमन। आई एम very grateful and thankful to Western Ghat Literary Festival and all the organizers to have invited me here and given me this opportunity to interact and share my experiences with all of you. So today in my session I would like to deal with certain issues I would like to highlight certain issues about Gyan Vyapi case which is ongoing. I would be dealing with certain history and the cases which we have filed pertaining to Shri Krishna Janmabhoomi. Also I will be touching upon the aspects of Waqf Act, the Places of Worship Act, and whether we are actually secular, which the word secular was inserted in the Constitution in 1976 by 42nd Amendment. So are we actually secular in today's perspective are the issues which I'll be focusing on in today's talk. So starting first, yesterday I was traveling together with Mr. Anand Rangnathan, and it was a pleasure to be in the same flight with him. So I was just briefing him and narrating him about the issue that we say that we are secular, but the point is this, that secular is the only word in the Constitution which has not been defined. Secular is the only word which was debated by the Constitutional Assembly. In the Constitutional Assembly debates 3 times this proposal of inserting the word secular was turned down. And Hindus 8th class citizen, now the second edition of this book will be coming because we will be supplying him more details and more materials that how Hindus are not just 8th class but 18th class or 20th class citizens, how the discrimination is continuing and ongoing. And the fact of the matter is that 5,200 crore rupees was the budgetary provision of central government from past so many years, and the recent budget of 2021-22 was 5,200 crores, where various schemes were floated for the benefit of minority communities. And this so-called minoritism is absolutely against the theme and against the ethos of the Constitution. When the word minority rights were discussed by Sardar Patel, by Jawaharlal Nehru, by B.K. Mukherjee, all of them said that there should be no special minority rights. When you are giving all the citizens equal right, or all the fundamental rights are available to everyone, then why are you giving special rights to members of minority communities? And let me tell you, before partition of the country, there were discussions in the draft constitution that there should be a special officer for minorities to deal with them with a separate perspective. But Sardar Patel said that if you are, and I'm quoting him, that if you are such a well-organized minority that you can get a whole country divided as per your populational strength, as per the strength of your population, then you do not want any minority rights in this country, and this country is not going to give you any minority rights. But despite that, Article 29 and 30 were added in the Indian Constitution. And today we are having a minority ministry, we are having a minority minister, we are having the Waqf board, and we are having 5,200 crore rupees which are being given by the government, by the central government, 3,200 crores. So at least I'm happy that by raising the voice, 2,000 crores of taxpayers I have saved. But the point is that this 3,000 crore rupees which are being spent on a minority should not be there. And the fact is that I am a Jain, and I am saying that we should not, because I don't believe that Jains are minorities, and this was the greatest sin which was committed by Congress government in 2013 by declaring sections of Jain community as minority community. Jains and Hindus have always been together, and they have been an integral part of one and the same belief. The only difference between Jain is Lord Krishna. He is the cousin brother of Lord Krishna, and if you visit Girnar Parvat, you will find the idol of Neminath Bhagwan, which was consecrated by Bhagwan Shri Krishna himself on the third talk, Tisri talk in Girnar Parvat. So Jainism and Hinduism is no different, but the policy of divide and rule, and what Supreme Court said in Bal Patil case, that minoritism will lead to multinationalism, is what we are facing and what we are feeling. So therefore I believe that this entire scheme of minority schemes run by the central government must be abolished. And therefore this is the issue which I wanted to highlight, that Article 29 and 30, and especially Article 30 subclause 1, is the most draconian provision, and which is making Hindus live like 9th class, after 8th I am putting it 9th class citizen in this country. Because the fact of the matter is, see how, I just want to highlight how Article 30 subclause 1 works. If suppose a person is of a Muslim community, he can establish an educational institution, and right from nursery up to professional education, by reading Islam, Hadith, Quran, and all the Islamic studies he can study and become a doctor, engineer, and all the professional educations he can achieve. But that facility is not available to any Sanatani. I cannot read my Sanskrit, I cannot read my scriptures. I was listening to Guruji, so well read. The Anandi Foundation, he was giving his presentation here at 1:15. But we cannot have Gurukul Parampara, which is funded by the central government. We cannot have such institutions, and then we can become lawyers and doctors. So this is the fallacy in the entire scheme, and how Article 30 subclause 1 works. So now moving to the next issue is I would like to explain certain issues of Waqf Act and Places of Worship Act, and then I would demonstrate what our case is of Gyan Vyapi and Krishna Janmabhoomi. So I believe and I feel as a lawyer, after meeting various sections of the society, after meeting various members of the society, I believe that the Waqf Act 1995 is one of the most draconian provisions and most draconian statutes in our country. And the history of Waqf Act starts from Muslim Waqf Act 1923, the first enactment. And if you will compare the Muslim Waqf Act 1923 with the present Waqf Act 1995, there is tremendous difference. What Muslim Waqf Act 1923 was enacted for was for administration of inter-see disputes between members of Shia community and Sunni community. So for example, if there is a dispute relating to a particular property between a Shia member and a Sunni member, then he can go to the Waqf tribunal, and for that purpose the Waqf Act 1923 was enacted. After independence, the first Waqf Act which was enacted was Waqf Act 1954, which was enacted by Congress government, and from there the draconian provisions started. And ultimately the Waqf Act 1995, which is existing today with amendment in 2013, is the most draconian law. And I would like to highlight certain statutory provisions which can show and demonstrate before us that how we have been discriminated, and how there are laws in this country which are blatantly and openly discriminating members of the Hindu community. And the example is, and I am quoting each section word by word in a simplified form, and you can correct me if I am wrong. Section 4, 5 and 6 of the Waqf Act 1995. Under section 4, 5 and 6 of the Waqf Act 1995, there is a survey which is conducted for the Waqf properties in every 10 years. And let me tell you that the cost of this survey is borne by the state exchequer under section 8 of the Waqf Act 1995. I want to ask a question to myself at this point of time. Full geo notification bylaw, where any surveys conducted for the properties of Hindu temples? Rather, the surveys conducted that how rich the Hindu temple is and go and grab it. That kind of surveys are conducted. But section 40, subclause 1 and subclause 3, the Waqf board can declare any property as Waqf property. And let me tell you, if the property is of a trust or a society, look at the power which is given to them. If suppose they are acquiring I'm just giving an example to explain the provision. If suppose his communications are never communicated to the affected parties. So the result is ultimately the person whose land has been declared as a Waqf property never knows that his land has been declared as a Waqf property. And if you don't challenge it, within 1 year that order becomes absolute. So this is section 40 subclause 3 for you. And under section 40 subclause 1, Waqf board has the power to declare any property as Waqf property. I was shouting about these provisions before this Tamil Nadu temple. When recently this example which came to light that in Tamil Nadu a temple is there which was existing 1400 years ago prior to Islam coming into force. Before that a temple was existing which was declared as Waqf property. This is a blatant example of how section 40 subclause 1 and how section 40 subclause 3 is misused and abused. And let me tell you, and it is not my data, the data is of Andhra Pradesh High Court of 2008, where the Andhra Pradesh High Court has gone on to record to say that the Waqf board is the third largest owner of land in this country. After defense and railway, the Waqf board is the third largest land owner in this country, and this is the data of Andhra Pradesh High Court of 2008. Now we are 15 years down the lane. And today if you will check the data, I don't know whether they are the first or the second. But the point is that we were mocked at by the judiciary, by the courts, by the so-called left liberals, when we used to say that Taj Mahal is a Hindu temple. Let me tell you that Taj Mahal has been declared as Waqf property by UP Sunni Central Waqf Board in 2005. The Archaeological Survey of India is in appeal in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court asked a question to the Waqf Board in 2018. Last this matter was listed in Supreme Court. And I remember Mr. V. Giri was arguing for the UP Sunni Central Waqf Board. The Chief Justice of India, the then Chief Justice of India asked Mr. Giri that please show us the document when Shah Jahan made this Taj Mahal as Waqf property. After that till today this matter is never listed. So there is a municipal corporation in Surat which has been declared as Waqf property. Delhi, most of the lands in Delhi are declared as Waqf property. Mr. Anand Rangnathan once said on Times Now studio that please check whether this land is on, he said out of, as a mockery, that please see whether this studio is on a Waqf land or not. Then later on he came to know that area also they are claiming as Waqf property. So the fact is that the question which remains is that have you given this power, I am asking, with lot of sense of responsibility, and I have asked to all the legal luminaries, the most senior advocates in this country, that is there any rule, notification, geo, bylaw, or forget any order where the member of any Hindu community, any Jain community, any Sikh community, any Christian community member has been given this power to declare any property as his own property? And then the person who, and after declaration, the communication will also not be made. And if the communication is made, then he has to challenge it before Waqf tribunal. Then moving forward, under the normal law for all of us who are sitting here is that if our properties are encroached, against the encroachment, we have to go to a civil court. We cannot take law in our own hands. we have to go to the civil court for removal of encroachment. And precisely that's what we are doing in Kashi and Mathura and Ayodhya. From 70 years we were fighting in Ayodhya to remove the illegal encroachment. In Kashi we are fighting legal battles to remove the encroachment. In Mathura we are fighting legal battles to remove the encroachment. But the power which is given to the Waqf Board under section 53 and 54 of Waqf Act 1995 is that if the Waqf land is encroached, they can direct the district magistrate and the SSP or the state government to carry out their orders to remove the encroachment and submit a report to them and see to it that the encroachment is removed. I want to ask a question that whether any such power is with any Sanatani or any member of the Hindu community. Then apart from that, the member of Waqf Board, then there is a Waqf Tribunal which is constituted under section 85 of the Waqf Act 1995, where one of the members have to be a known scholar of Islamic law, and by default all the members of Waqf Tribunal till date have been Muslims. So ultimately you are the judge, jury and the executor. You will declare your property, any property as Waqf property, and I have to challenge it before Waqf Tribunal under section 85, and the provisions of and the jurisdiction of civil court is barred under section 83. I cannot challenge that order under in the civil court. So I have to challenge it in Waqf Tribunal, where the members of Islamic law are sitting, and they will declare that order as valid. Then, under section 80 of the CPC, the British provision was, and it has continued till today under the present CPC also, CPC 1908, that if you have to file a case against the central government and the state government, you have to give them 2 months prior notice. This was the provision, and this provision remains intact in the statute books till today. Can you imagine? Mutawallis are declared as public servants, meaning thereby if you even touch them, it's an offense under the IPC. No Shankarachar, Purohit, Mahant, priest, Pithadishwar, or a simple priest also has been declared as a public servant by any government order till this date. But you have declared members of Waqf Board as public servants so that they can do anything they want on ground and by statute, and no one can question them. Apart from that, for us, the law is that if any temple property is encroached and there is a shibayat, and that shibayat is negligent, then you have to approach the courts of law within 3 years or within 12 years, whatever is the limitation period as described under the Limitation Act 1963. But for the Waqf Board, there is no period of limitation. उनको जब सपना आ जाए कि कोई संपत्ति वक्फ संपत्ति थी, they can say, yes, this is waqf land. And they can pass an order. For them, there is no limitation. For us, there is limitation. If we don't come to the courts of law within a particular period of time, our rights are barred. Our remedy is barred. But for should have become the owners of those areas. So there, at that point of time, there was an act which was enacted by the central government, and the name of the act is So this is the draconian things which are happening. We have challenged the constitutional validity of Waqf Act 1995. Earlier we went to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court always entertains most of the PILs which are concerning various issues. But this PIL, they said that you should approach the High Court first. So we have taken this challenge, and as of now, 200 petitions are filed in various high courts, and we are filing petitions after petitions, and we are enlightening the citizens and our people that how this Waqf Act is so draconian. We have given a representation to the central government, but the fact of the matter is, why I am telling you all this today is that there may be a scenario that the judiciary of this country may not take appropriate steps at appropriate time, and it's already too late. As I've told you that the Waqf Board is may become the first larger landowner in this country, and against this oppressive mechanism, we all have to get united, and we all have to fight against it someday. Mr. Ranganathan has written a wonderful book, and I think books after books, series after series, articles after articles have to be written against this draconian law. Now moving forward, since I have a paucity of time, so I have to cover a lot of issues. So moving forward, I would like to demonstrate a little bit about what we have narrated as Gyanvyapi case. What is our case? I don't want to take you all through various documents because of security reasons. Then we took a left turn. When you take a left turn, you find 3 vigres. You find a shivling here. You find one more set of shivlings here. And you find a Hanuman Murti here. These are the 3 vigres the moment you take left turn from gate number 4. Then little forward you go and you take a right turn. And you go and you meet this and you get to this gate of New Temple. So there is another gate. For the persons who are coming from gate number 4, they go like this and they enter the premises of New Temple. They offer their worship here and they go out. In middle of this area, there is this barricading. So this entire thing which I am building here is a barricading. Now this barricading was done by the then Mulayam Singh Yadav government in November 1993. And inside this barricading, there are these 3 central domes. And let me also tell you that this is the west side of the so-called mosque. This is the east side. This is the south. And this is the north. So behind these 3 central domes, we as Hindus are worshipping from November 1993 till this very day. We are worshipping the Vigre of Ma Shringar Gauri. Earlier we used to worship every day in the year. But after this barricading which was installed in 1993, we are now worshipping once a year on 4th day of Vaishantik Navratra we are worshipping. So here there is Ma Shringar Gauri. Shringar Gauri. And inside this so-called, these are the 3 central domes of the mosque. This is the Wazu tank. In this Wazu tank we found Shivling on 16th May 2022. And this is the Tehkhana of Vyas Parivar. Tehkhana in Hindi we can say the cellar of Vyas Parivar. So this is the cellar of Vyas Parivar. Actually this mosque is on the 1st floor, so this cellar is virtually the ground floor of the mosque. But like you have to enter this cellar little bit so that you can offer worship. So let me also tell you one more fact, that Vyas Parivar was worshipping in this cellar till November 1993. It is only in November 1993 when Mulayam Singh Yadav government, in complete murder of the Places of Worship Act, threw the Vyas Parivar from this cellar. And this cellar is inside this barricading beneath the mosque. Thus Vyas Parivar was thrown out of this cellar who was worshipping inside the mosque, and they were dispossessed in violation of section 3 of the Places of Worship Act. And inside this premises in question here, there was a peepal tree which has been cut. There is Ganesh idol which was here, which has been thrown out. Hanuman, as I told you, is a Hanuman idol. There were some shivlings which are inside the barricading, which are now here. So now, the so-called Anjuman Intizamiya claims that this is a mosque. So what we did is this. We filed a civil court in this. We filed a civil suit in the civil court of Varanasi, and we said that we were worshipping in the premises in question till November 1993. The Places of Worship Act has been enacted in July 1991. So in violation of, please read section 3 of Places of Worship Act, which gives a mandate that no place will be changed. And this right now I'm playing as a devil's advocate. First of all, I believe that Places of Worship Act is completely unconstitutional. But going by the interpretation which is being made out by Mr. Oism and various left liberals and seculars, they say that no place of worship should be changed and the religious character has to be intact on 15th August 1947. This is the narrative which we all hear. So the question is this, that who in violation of section 3 of the Places of Worship Act stopped the daily worship of Ma Shringar Gauri in the western side of the so-called mosque? Who till November 1993 stopped the worship of Lord Ganesh, Lord Hanuman, the invisible deity? And who in November 1993 threw us from the cellar which was existing right under the mosque? Is the grievance which we had before the civil court of Varanasi. And this civil suit was filed by us. Yes, so sorry. Nandi is here in the new temple, which is facing, so sorry. Nandi is right 83 feet from this shivling which we have found in the Vazu tank. Here is the Nandi, which is facing towards the shivling, this shivling. Now I'll tell the further story. So as per this map which I have drawn, as I told you that we asked for right to worship, and our suits are not just restricted to right to worship. We have asked for title also of this entire area. The khasra number of this area is khasra number 9130, which is the revenue record, which is the survey record. So we filed a civil suit in the Civil Court of Mathura, and we asked for an advocate commission survey, which is a provision under Order 26 Rule 9 of the CPC. And we said that inside this so-called Gyanvyapi mosque, there are various signs and symbols of Hindu temple. So an advocate commission survey is required. I must tell you that though we have various examples in our Indian judiciary of rejecting this demand, of calling this demand as communal, but there are certain rational judges also in the Indian judiciary. Honorable Mr. Justice Ravi Kumar Divakar, who has been now transferred from Varanasi to Bareilly, he passed an order of survey of advocate commission under Order 26 Rule 9 and said that survey must be conducted. And there were 5 dates on which survey were to be held. The dates were 6th and 7th of May and 15th, 16th and 14th, 15th and 16th of May 2022. And when on 5th of May, 6th and 7th of May, when me and my father were going to enter from gate number 4 to go and conduct this survey with the advocate commission team, I just want to picture, and with that courage, we entered into gate number 4. The entire survey team entered into gate number 4. Outside there were a lot of nares of Nare Takbir and this and that. And I really don't know till today that how that survey team survived and how they entered gate number 4, because we would have been butchered and massacred. But it is only Mahadev, I believe and I feel, who saved us and who protected us to enter gate number 4. When we entered gate number 4, we earlier on 6th and 7th of May, we did the survey of the outer area of the barricading, and we did the survey of Ma Shingar Gauri, Nandi, which is facing toward the mosque, the figure of Hanumanji and various other areas, and toward the mosque, the figure of Hanumanji and various other areas. And on 6th and 7th of May, and let me tell you, the court order was that this entire survey will be videographed and photographed. On 7th of May, the members of Muslim community, the Anjuman Intizamiya, said that advocate commissioner is biased and this advocate commissioner must be changed. So advocate commissioner was also shocked that what biasness I have done, everything is recorded in the camera. I am writing whatever I am seeing. There is no issue of biasness. My report is not out. Anyways, they made this objection on 12th of May. Honorable Mr. Justice Ravi Kumar Divakar passed an order and he said that 2 more advocate commissioners will be appointed in the survey, and the survey will happen from 8 a.m. till 5 a.m. on 14th, 15th and 16th of May. On 14th of May, we did survey of the western wall, and let me tell you that the western wall is shouting and saying that it is a ruins of an old Hindu temple. Beneath these 3 central domes, we found the shikhar of Hindu temple which has been cut. In the so-called mosque, when we entered, there was a lot of calendars like Gyanvyapi mosque. And when we opened that calendar, beneath that calendar, Trishul and Damru and Shank were made. Then the so-called mosque was painted heavily to hide the original characteristic of Hindu temple. The pillars, there are 2, as I told you, there is one Taikhana of Vyasji, and I forgot there is one more Taikhana here, which is in control of Anjuman Intizamiya. The keys are with Mr. Ejaz. So we did survey of these 2 Taikhanas also, and we found lot of Sanskrit shloks, idols, destroyed and mutilated idols in both the cellars and both the Taikhanas. Apart from that, we found pillars of Hindu temple which were heavily painted. We found bells, and lot of proofs were found in the Advocate Commission survey. And on 16th, I can never forget that day. On 16th of May 2022, it was Monday, Buddha Purnima. this Wazoo tank, I was looking at this Wazoo tank from a far distance from the central dome of the mosque, and I was able to see a round circle wall, you can say. So I asked the Advocate Commissioner to do survey in the Wazoo tank. So no one ever thought that we will do survey of the Wazoo tank, because Wazoo tank was full with water. This Wazoo tank is of 3 feet, and entire 3 feet was full with water. So the Anjuman Intizamiya started objecting that there are a lot of fishes in the Wazoo tank, they will die. So I said that don't worry, I come from Jain community, we will take care of the fishes and we will do survey here. So the state government organized oxygen for the fishes. Can you imagine? Yeah, this has happened. The state government organized for oxygen for the fishes. The water was lowered down to 2 feet, and in 1 feet water, fishes were there with the ample of oxygen. We took a stair. I'll just show you. From here. So this is the place where we found shivling. So from here till here, we took stairs to enter there. And when we entered those stairs, after around 370 years, when I and my legal team saw our deity, for some time I forgot that I'm a lawyer. And I shouted and said, Namah Parvati Pate Har Har Mahadev. And at that point only we decided that this is the last day when they are doing Wazoo on our deity. We went to the civil court and we asked for sealing of this entire area. The Honorable Civil Judge Senior Division, on our request, because this thing happened at 10 o'clock, and they were going to come and offer namaz at 11:30, and it was so very possible that they would have destroyed this important case property. So they would have destroyed this, was our belief, and under Order 39, Rule 3 of the CPC, there is a provision that court has all the rights to save a very important case property. So the Civil Judge Senior Division, on our request, sealed this entire area on 10:30 on 16th of May 2022. And first time in the Indian legal history, we were generally taught that if there is an order of Civil Judge Senior Division, you have to challenge it in district court. Against the order of district court, you have to go to High Court. Against the order of the High Court, you have to go to Supreme Court. But for them, law is different. First time in the Indian legal history, an order of Civil Judge Senior Division was directly challenged in the Supreme Court. And when the matter traveled to the Supreme Court, my father was hospitalized, and all the left liberals and the left media in the Supreme Court started saying that Vishnu and his father are taking the excuse of their ill health so that they can get this stay order extended. My father was actually hospitalized. Can you imagine? The media personals came in the hospital, in the ICU, to see whether he is actually hospitalized or not, and they took interview there. I'm not naming the channels. But anyways, on the entire order was stayed for some time. On 17th of May, this order was interfered by the Supreme Court, and the matter was listed on 19th of May before the Supreme Court, 19th May 2022. I came to the Supreme Court with my father was still recovering from the asthma attack, because he's asthmatic, and he entered. In legal history, an order of civil court sealing an area was challenged, but ultimately the central government said that if this shivling is touched, there will be law and order problem in this country, and the order of sealing of Shivlingam remain intact. And first time in the Indian legal history, order of Civil Judge Senior Division was subsumed in the order of Supreme Court. And now this sealing order of this Wazoo tank is by the Supreme Court, and the order is dated 20th of May 2022. Now, what we did next? I'm telling you because this is a little sense of achievement for all of us. We filed an application before the Civil Court of Varanasi, and the Supreme Court also transferred the entire litigation from Civil Judge Senior Division to the District Court. And the District Judge now became the Trial Judge. So we filed an application before the Trial Court saying that this area where we have found Shivlingam must be investigated. And because if we want our right to worship, the first thing is that we want to get it investigated, because the other party is not believing it's a Shivlingam. They are saying it's a fountain. So we said through non-invasive method, this Shivlingam must be investigated. The trial court rejected our request on 14th of October 2022, saying that this area has been sealed by the Supreme Court. Therefore, we cannot interfere with it. We said it's an erroneous order. We challenged it in a civil revision petition before the Allahabad High Court. 20 hearings happened in the Allahabad High Court, and ASI submitted a report of 54 pages. We said that yes, this Shivlingam can be investigated, and this also can be investigated, whether it's a Shivlingam or a fountain. And without even taking a particle, we can do this. Allahabad High Court on 12th of May 2023 passed an order that yes, there should be an SI survey of the Shivlingam. And many people have doubts in the mind that this is not a Shivlingam, this is a fountain. Many people have doubts. So I must tell you, and if someone is having very rational thinking, suppose a Muslim also, he will say that, okay, you are saying it's a Shivlingam, I am saying it's a fountain, let it be investigated. But can you imagine, against the order of ASI survey of the Shivlingam and the fountain, Shivlingam/fountain, who came in appeal in the Supreme Court? The Anjuman Intizamiya. Anjuman Intizamiya said that no investigation is required, and this must not be investigated. It was the last working day of Supreme Court on 19th of May. The order of High Court was stayed by the Supreme Court on 19th of May, and it's going to come up on hearing on 30th of October, day after tomorrow. So I'm going today for preparations for this only. So the fact of the matter is, then what we did not rest our weapons. We said, all right, this Wazoo tank area, the order has been stayed by the Supreme Court, and when Supreme Court will give clearance, then only there will be an ASI survey. All right. Let the other areas we said that let the other areas apart from the Wazoo tank be investigated. Can you imagine? Like this was a long demand of ASI survey, and I still feel that it's some dream or something, because we moved this application before the civil court. Again, on 16th of May 2023, the reply came from Anjuman Intizamiya on 19th of May. The civil court went for vacations in the entire. Anjuman Intizamiya went to the Supreme Court. Ideally, they should have gone to the Allahabad High Court. And the argument was that we did not have time to go to the Allahabad High Court. The distance of Allahabad High Court from Varanasi is 100 kilometers. And the distance of Supreme Court from Varanasi is 800 kilometers. So they came directly to the Supreme Court on 24th of May without even a petition on oral mentioning. And the Supreme Court stayed the order 5th of May 2023. The Allahabad High Court, 25th of July 2023. The order of District Court was of 21st of July 2023. The Supreme Court interfered on 24th of July. The matter was heard by the Allahabad High Court on 25th of July, 26th of July, 27th of July by the Chief Justice of the Allahabad High Court. The judgment was reserved. And on 3rd of August 2023, the Allahabad High Court said the order of District Court is valid and ASI survey must be conducted in the entire area excluding the Wazoo tank. This order of Allahabad High Court was pronounced at 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. on 3rd of August, and at 2 p.m. the Anjuman Intizamiya again approached the Supreme Court. And can you imagine, I was also present at 2 p.m. in the Supreme Court. They were also shocked, because after the judgment I also came immediately to the Supreme Court, because I knew that they are going to come. And they asked for an urgent overnight hearing of this matter. But due to awakening of the citizens, overnight hearing of this matter did not happen. The ASI had already reached the spot and the survey had started. On 4th of August, the Supreme Court also upheld the order of District Court and the Civil Court and the Allahabad High Court. So can you imagine, this is something unbelievable, that from 21st of July till 4th of August, within a span of 15 days, we won the demand of ASI survey from 3 courts. And today the ASI is conducting survey. There is a gag order which they have taken from the court that you should not tell what is happening in the ASI. And I'm just holding my hands and I'm not able to tell you what is happening in the ASI survey. But let me assure you that the ASI is going to file its report very soon, tentatively by 2nd of November, and it is going to be historic. I must also tell you that in Gyan Vyapi case, we are at the verge of victory. The moment ASI files its report, it will be a very fast-track process, and we have all the clinching evidence, the historical records, the travel accounts, the gazetteers, the scriptural evidence, everything we will prove before the court by way of exhibits. This is a case which does not need much of oral evidence, because whatever has happened in 1670, no one can give oral evidence about it. Only it can be proved through historical records and ASI's evidences, which is an expert opinion under Section 45 of the Indian Evidence Act. But the fact of the matter is that then this case will have lot of progress. And now moving forward, I'll just take 5 minutes more. Okay. So in this context, what I was trying to narrate before you was, and demonstrate as a layman, was that Places of Worship Act 1991, we are understanding from the perspective of the media, the narrative which has been driven by the left liberals. What is written in the Places of Worship Act, we are not appreciating. What is written in Places of Worship, I believe, and I'm again reiterating, that Places of Worship Act must be repealed. But suppose the government does not repeal it and it remains in the statute books, what we as citizens can do, and what we did through our legal interpretation. We, in Kashi case, let me also tell you, in Kashi case, 50 hearings happened before the trial court, that whether Places of Worship Act is attracted or not. On 21st of September 2022, we won from the trial court of Varanasi, and the district court held that the Places of Worship Act and Waqf Act is not attracted in this case. Anjuman Intizamiya against this order went to the Allahabad High Court. 20 hearings happened before the Allahabad High Court, on which Mr. Justice J.J. Munir passed a judgment on 31st of May 2023, wherein he held that this case is not barred by Places of Worship Act and Waqf Act. So this biggest achievement I want to share with you, that when the government repeals the Places of Worship Act, it will repeal. That will be an ideal situation for all of us. But we must come up with this narrative that Places of Worship Act uses the word religious character. And religious character has to be determined in a trial, in a suit. For example, to explain my statement, for example, if I enter into a mosque and I put an idol there, will the religious character of a mosque change? The answer can be only one, that no, the religious character of the mosque cannot change. And vice versa, if someone enters into a temple and he offers namaz there, will the religious character of temple change? The answer can be only one, that no, the religious character of temple cannot change. So that's why, what is the religious character on 15th August? I have to brief you all about Mathura also.
But Vishnuji, when you do that for the rest of the temples, please, on the top of the list, put Adina Mosque of Bengal. That's one of the biggest.
Everything will come on, everything is on our list, and we will clinically fight it. Each and every temple which has been demolished and which has been converted into a mosque, we will fight it and we will get it restored. And this fight is to give a message that even though you demolish our temple, even after 500 years, 600 years, Sanatanis will rise and will reclaim back whatever you have taken. And I don't want to hear any lecture on secularism, because Jews and Muslims are fighting on Jerusalem for 35 acres of land. And we are in the similar position of Jews in Kashi Vishwanath. The Jews there worship in the western side of the so-called mosque, and their stones are thrown upon them. and no UN and no country or no big nation in this world from past 2000 years are able to solve the issue of Jerusalem. At least we have a living example of Ram Temple, where the issue which was 500 years old was solved by the Indian judiciary, and on 22nd of January we are going to see a bhav inauguration of Ram Temple. So if Ram Temple can be inaugurated and can be reclaimed, it can be done in the case of Kashi, Mathura and many more temples. Now moving forward to the case of Mathura. See, Mathura's case is a more stronger case than Ram Mandir and than Kashi. Because, let me tell you, ideally if you all would be landowners here who are sitting in front of me, so you will be having some piece of land or there will be sale deeds and all. Ideally, what is the concept we have? That if we have a sale deed, you will have possession. In Mathura's case, ironically, we have the sale deed, they have the possession. Let me tell you how. See, the history of Mathura is like this, that the temple of Mathura had always been on the eye of various invaders, and it was demolished many a times in the past. But lastly, it was constructed by Raja Bir Singh Bundela by a cost of 33 lakhs, and it was demolished by Farman of Aurangzeb in 1670, and the Farman said that all the small and big idols must be put under the stairs of Begum Shahi Masjid of Agra, so that when they go and offer namaz, it can be continually trodden upon. So then there was a battle of Govardhan, which happened in 1770. That area was captured by the Maratha Empire, and the entire area was under the control of Maratha Empire. And let me also tell you, in 1670, Aurangzeb demolished a temple. There is no historical record of Aurangzeb constructing a mosque. Please remember this. Then in 1770, Maratha Empire took control of this area. Then in 1803, the East India Company took control of this entire Mathura district. And in 1815, an auction happened of this 13.37 acres of land. The entire land which is very pious, and where we believe that the Karagar of Kans is there, where we believe that Lord Krishna self-incarnated himself, is in this 13.37 acres of land. And there was an auction by the British government, by the East India Company in 1815, and Raja Patnimal of Banaras purchased that entire land of 13.37 acres in auction purchase from the East India Company. In 1870, 10 rounds of litigation happened between Raja Patnimal and the various members of Muslim community, and they lost in all rounds of litigation. There is a judgment of Honorable Court in 1920 which records that there is no mosque here and this entire land belongs to the members of the Hindu community. Then it so happened, a fraud happened with all of us. In the meantime, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya was a very important leader for all of us. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya had a vision that in Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi, a glorified temple, a lofty temple must be built. So he asked this 13.37 acres of land ownership from Raja Patnimal, the successors of Raja Patnimal. And 13,400 rupees was the cost which was fixed for this sale by the successors of Raja Patnimal to Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. Why 13,400 rupees? Because the successors of Raja Patnimal were having some loans, and said Jugal Kishore Birla said that I will pay that loan and you transfer this land to Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. This sale deed happened in 1944. The entire land was transferred to Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, and Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya constructed a trust, which the name of the trust is, please remember this name, Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust. This trust was formulated in 1950. Thus, and in the meantime, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya ji expired. And in 1950, the trust deed says that the idea of the trust is to make a lofty Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi temple at the so-called area, and the temple is lying in the ruins, is recorded in the trust deed of 1950. Then, in 1958, a fake organization was formed. The name was very similar, and the name was Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh. Now, interestingly, Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh files a case in 1964, and they say that in certain sections of this 13.37 acres of land, 13.37 acres of land, the members of Muslim community and Shahi Idgah Masjid have taken possession. So kindly remove them. On 12th of October 1968, a compromise happened between Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh and Shahi Idgah Masjid. And the compromise was that whatever you have entered into, you be there, and we will build the temple in the other parts of the 11 acres. So as of now, out of 13.37 acres of land, around 2.5 acres is in possession of Shahi Idgah Masjid, and that's the area where still the Karagar of Kans is. So then after a long time, when me and my father were researching about it, we went to the civil court of Mathura. We got those documents, the deed, because when we used to talk about this to various sections of the society, they used to say, what are you talking about, Krishna Janmabhoomi? Compromise has happened. Everyone used to say, compromise has happened, compromise has happened, compromise has happened. So we got the original copy of the compromise, we got the original copy of the decree which happened in 1973. All the records were in such a dilapidated condition that I can't even tell you. Like if I would have given that to you, no one in this world, I can guarantee, can read it. So we took a lot of microscope, lenses and all. We read it, typed it, put it in a proper form. And then I just want to say, and I'm not here appreciating, like it's not an issue of what I have done or my father have done. But as a son, I'm just telling that my father has 47 years of legal career. Every day he has devoted to Sanatani cause. Till this very day, when we are debating here, talking here, that man is sitting in front of the system from 9 to 9, working on these issues. So it is his hard work, and I am not appreciating him as a son, but I am appreciating him as a lawyer. It is his hard work that he formulated all these things. And जैसे मैं इसको ऐसे समझाना चाहता हूं, अगर कोई चीज आपके सामने कोई आपको ब्रीफ करने वाला नहीं है, कोई आपको बताने वाला नहीं है कि यहां पे ऐसा हुआ है, ये उनकी अपनी तपस्या थी, जिन्हें उनको पता चला कि यहां पे फ्रॉड हुआ है. ये सिर्फ उनकी तपस्या थी. And we found that, ultimately what we found, that this entire land was given to Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust. The ownership of this land of 13.37 acres of land is with Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Trust. Who the hell is Sri Krishna Janmabhoomi Seva Sangh to file the case and enter into a compromise? It's like a movie which we saw in my childhood days, Bunty and Bubbly. Two fraudsters had sold Taj Mahal. So something like this has happened here. And then we took out judgments of the Supreme Court which said that fraud unravels everything. And if something has been achieved by fraud, you can challenge it at any point of time. So the compromise of 12th of October 1968 was challenged by us in the civil court of Mathura. And ultimately when that challenge happened, initially, can you imagine? We filed the suit for the first time in the Indian legal history. After 12th of October 1968, the suit was filed on 25th of September 2020. The civil court of Mathura rejected our suit at the threshold and said that Bhagwan Krishna ke asankhya bhakt hai. There are a lot of devotees of Bhagwan Krishna. If everyone will come to court, the judicial order will collapse. This judicial order did not collapse in CAA when 100 petitions were filed in the Supreme Court. But in Krishna Janmabhoomi case, if everyone starts coming to court, they said that judicial order will collapse. Ultimately, me and my father went for 45 hearings for appeal before the district court against the order of 30th of September 2020. And ultimately the order of the Civil Justice Senior Division was set aside. And after a lot of labor, our suit was registered. Then we filed a petition in the Allahabad High Court because we understood that in civil court of Mathura, in civil court of Mathura, this can be never decided, because whenever we go from Delhi to Mathura, many a times there are strike, there are condolences, the case are not getting decided. So we filed the application under section 24 of the CPC before the High Court. And we said that if any foreign dignitary comes, the first thing we do and our Prime Minister does is to offer Gita to him. The person who has given, the Bhagwan who has given the Gyan of Krishna, the Gyan of Gita, for that battle we are fighting and it is not getting taken up. So this is a matter of national importance. Please transfer it to Allahabad High Court for original trial like Ram Mandir. In Ram Mandir case, the civil suit was filed in 1950. The original trial was transferred to Allahabad High Court in 1989. After a lot of hearing in the Allahabad High Court, the Allahabad High Court on 26th of May has agreed to our demand, and this entire trial has been transferred from Mathura Civil Court to Allahabad High Court. So, against this, and very interesting, I'll finish in 2 minutes. Very interestingly, when the matter was transferred from lower court of Mathura to Allahabad High Court, so we have actually curtailed 2 layers. Because if the trial would have happened before Civil Judge Senior Division, appeal would have gone to the District Court, then to the High Court, then to the Supreme Court. So 4-tier system is there. We have actually cut 2-tier system. So now the original trial will happen in the High Court, and then the first appeal will go to the Supreme Court. So against this order of 26th of May, the Shahi Idgah Masjid came to the Supreme Court. Again, the matter is listed day after tomorrow. I am going there. Day after tomorrow in the Supreme Court. And you know what they argued in the Supreme Court? They said that please transfer the trial to Delhi. We don't have funds to travel from Mathura to Allahabad. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? So these are the pleas which are taken, but ultimately all the 16 civil suits which are filed in this case have been transferred to Allahabad High Court. The trial judge has been appointed in Allahabad High Court. Honorable Mr. Mayank Kumar Jain has been appointed as the trial judge. The matter is going to be, the trial is starting in Allahabad High Court from 7th of November. And I'm very sure that this is an open and shut case. Within 6 months maximum, I'm saying that we will get a favorable order in Krishna Janmabhoomi case, because the fraud has happened, the documents are speaking for itself, and all these things will be proved to hilt before the court. So I'm very, very thankful to all of you for giving me this opportunity for interacting with you. And again, I thank Western Ghats Literary Festival and all the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Once again, very thankful to all of you.
It was an enlightening and a delightful session, sir. Our best wishes for the success of the case. I request Basant Jain ji, who has come all the way from Mumbai for the program, to present the memento and felicitate Vishnu Shankar Jain ji.